Welcome to the very first Bushido Dojo All Things Martial Arts podcast, where we discuss all things martial arts. Every week we're going to have a different topic and a different guest. This week's guest is Mrs. Jacqueline Rymer. She's a second-degree black belt, and she is uniquely qualified to talk about today's subject, which is women in the martial arts and specifically self-defense. Hello, Mrs. Rymer. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Tell us a little bit about your martial arts background and how we got to the present day.
Well, I'm your wife, and when we started dating when I was 13, and so I've been watching martial arts for a long time, and then when we had the kids and they started, I just pretty much started with them. And once they got active in sports, I had a brown belt for I think 8 years, and then once we started up here, I was training for my black belt then and got that in 2017.
Okay, well, let's tell us a little bit about that experience. What is it about the actual process of that final push to be prepared for that black belt test? And how important is that to actually be and feel a black belt?
Okay, well, I think that that process of training, which really the whole time you're training, for black belt, but that last leg of it was very physically hard, but also mentally hard as well. But I also feel that was my most growth was during that time. I learned the most about myself during that time, for sure. And I think that was sort of the highlight of my process from the beginning to that point, to black belt. That was the definite biggest growth, I think.
Okay, well, what is it about being in front of a board and be able to perform under those pressures? Do you feel like that is a requirement to actually be able to go into being a black belt and then becoming an instructor that has the kind of authority that a black belt will have in a dojo?
Just based off what I've seen over the years, that the whole idea of not having a board of higher ranking black belts that is basically all in agreement that this person is qualified to be a black belt. I think that's a newer thing. I've actually never seen
For it not to be?
For it to not be.
Yeah.
I've never seen someone just promoted to a black belt and not have gone through that process.
Okay. Yeah, and I know different styles, different organizations
Sure.
do different things, but traditionally around this area, you've usually had a very physical test, kind of like a passing through the gates from color belt to black belt.
Yes.
You'd have more physical test. So I do believe it was in 2017 we had started a women's self-defense class that was simply supposed to be pretty much like all the rest of them. 6-week course, something like that.
That's right.
In a cycle, and it just kind of evolved and took a life unto itself that it turned into a women's only martial arts class. And I do know that we had learned a lot about what women need out of a martial arts class, how they learn, and how important it is for them to feel safe with more like their peers rather than with, like in a mixed group or having somebody with that's kind of intimidating themselves teaching the class. How important do you think it is for a woman to be able to instruct this class, but not just a woman to throw them in there just to have them in there, but a qualified woman?
Well, I think that in my mind, that's the only option. Like a woman that is actively seeking a self-defense class of any type, that's for a reason. Just like our kids who come in, a good huge percentage of these kids that come in here They're wanting to learn self-defense for a specific reason, either trouble at home, trouble with kids at school, whatever that reason is.
Maybe a discipline issue.
Whatever it is,
department.
exactly. A lot of that's brought on by parents, like my child needs discipline or, whatever. The women are no different. Women are seeking that for a specific reason, and what I found, 100% of the women that actively sought out that class, not that we didn't talk to about it or approach about it or kind of bring on board with us, but the ones that we didn't know that were strangers that actively sought out a class, all of them had either been a victim of domestic violence or rape. And so every self-defense class I've seen, either online or advertised or whatever, it's always a man instructor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I'll say majority of the time.
the majority. I've seen a couple that were female led. But the problem with a male leader, and men aren't going to want to hear this,
Right.
but it is just the truth.
Right.
You are stepping in front of this group of vulnerable women, and you are trying to teach them self-defense, and ultimately the type of person typically that they have to defend themselves against is the person that's trying to teach them self-defense. So what I'm trying to say with that is, there of all humankind, the easiest people group to abuse, rape, any act of violence on is a child. That's the weakest type of human.
Easiest prey.
That's the easiest prey. Next one's a woman, right? Beyond that is a smaller / feminine, more feminine type male, right?
Okay, can I push back onto you one thing
Sure.
you said, because this is going to be probably a point of contention.
I'm sure.
So why would a woman be better suited to be taught by a woman who she's less likely to be attacked by, rather than a man teaching her? That is
question.
Like, why?
Yeah.
You see,
I see exactly where
that's
you're
who they're
going, and let me
defending.
tell you why. Of all of the women I have ever seen you or any other male instructor ever work with another woman, you almost never even touch her, let alone physically. What you're saying to me is they need to feel that from a man. They need to feel the strength and the resistance of a man.
Yeah.
I've never seen you guys do that, not one time.
Yeah, I know that I specifically.
And
won't do that.
other than with if it's me, if it's Isabel,
But even still, then
Stacia,
it's not the same.
it's not the same, and I know that it's not, but that's my point. My point is that I'm going to be much more physical with them than you will be,
Okay.
or any other man.
So, would you also go into the point of, do you believe a woman will open up less to a male instructor of experiences, things that's happened?
I think that's a common sense. I don't even think that's a question.
Well,
of
I mean,
course,
I'm
a
sure
woman is not ever going to want to talk to a strange male about anything personal, especially when you start talking about abuse and rape. You don't want to talk about that with anybody, let alone with a man. Like, that's not something a woman's ever going to want to open up to another man about that she does not know extremely intimately.
Right. So, do you see in these kind of programs? Do you see every once in a while an introduction of a male helper on special occasions, just so they will feel what it's like to have to defend themselves against a male? And then, how would you determine that would be the type of male that you would want to bring into that type of class?
Okay, so yes, we would use men because I do believe that all women need male instructors as well. I'm saying that the initial and the primary instructor shouldn't be a male for a woman's self-defense class. When we bring in a man, I don't bring in a man to physically punch, kick, whatever a woman, so she can feel that strength difference. We know the strength difference, like we understand that. I would bring them in more for the woman to throw, for the woman to get to work on, not for them to work on her. So you're simply being used as a tool for women to get a feel of maneuvering and being in close proximity to a male. It has to be one that she even is comfortable with and trusts. We would bring a man in, the same one, hopefully, and that would be a slow process. That's not a, hey, here's this man you've never met before or you've seen him in passing.
Right.
I want you to get right up on him and do X, Y, Z.
Right, but you do believe that they'll need to feel like what it's like to be able to execute techniques against a man.
Absolutely.
And with the string,
Absolutely.
different size,
I'm
different
saying
weight
that
difference usually.
yes, for sure.
Mhm.
No, I'm not saying that men should just never teach women. Actually, my goal for this class even would be for them to gain the skill and the confidence and the trust to graduate to the regular adult class. I wouldn't want them to ever stay in a women's class forever. But that's where they should start, especially if they are victims of any type. That's
Right, so you would have, I mean, if a woman wants to start a regular class, they can start a regular class. Now, what if the woman who feels, they may have some trauma, and because a lot of that trauma stays with you forever, would it be something that a woman could, if they didn't feel comfortable going into a mixed gender class, would they be able to stay for the whole time?
yeah. Okay, yes, because what we are going to be doing is not a traditional women's self-defense class.
Okay, let's before we skip over that, let's go to that. Why not? Usually the background on these, they're going to show you a few maneuvers. It's going to be, like an hour a week for 6 weeks or
Sure.
something like that.
Yeah.
Why do you believe that is not going to be the best? Let's say this. Do you believe there's any validity to learning those skills?
I think there are a few of them.
Right.
I think that the whole 1 day, 1 week, 6 week class is garbage because as we all as martial artists understand, you have to not only develop muscle memory in order for your body to function without the brain.
Mhm.
So these women need to be able to defend themselves the best that they can, to the best of their ability, and not have to think about doing it. If you show
Right.
anybody something, if you show someone how to throw a baseball for the first time for 6 weeks, and then they never do it, and for 5 years go by me and you want them to play baseball,
Right.
it's no different. You have to not just develop muscle memory, you have to be able to maintain that as well. And we all know
Right.
that we have to continually practice the basics.
Right, to get the neurological
We
pathways.
gotta really drive in those fundamentals so that if we're ever caught in a situation, our body will do what it knows how to do without our brain having to get too much involvement.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and this has been a curiosity for me, not being a part of any of the women's classes we've had in the past or going to be going forward, is there more of a emphasis on situational awareness and what to look for and what not to look for in those situations?
Yes. I feel that should be really a part of every class.
And it is to a certain extent. I'm just saying,
Right, but for women it is a little different simply because, and this is something that just no man on the planet can ever comprehend because, and then we've talked about this before, is you've never had to roam the earth wondering if you're going to be attacked.
I'm gonna
Like,
say
that's not-
it's unfair to say no man has had that because some men have.
Well,
You're saying specifically
I'm
when
saying
we
in
talk,
general.
I have.
In general, I'm not all women walk around with their head on a swivel either. I'm just
Right.
saying that we understand most of the time. We understand that we are, because it is what it is. We are slower, we are weaker, and we don't have as long of an endurance typically. There's always an
Typically
exception.
outliers, of course.
I'm talking just in general. I'm
Saying
not
opposite
saying
end
that
of
there's
spectrums, yeah, there can be crossover.
right, but I'm just simply stating that for the most part, we understand men are stronger than us, and that I don't worry about a woman attacking me.
Right.
Like I'm A-okay on that. I'm much more concerned about it being a man
Sure.
Right? So, and I've made these mistakes. I've been in really bad neighborhoods and didn't really understand I was in a bad neighborhood. And so everything we teach our daughters, always know where you're at, always know who's around you, always take somebody with you if you're in a location that you're not familiar with, you know. We get older and we disregard a lot of those things because we feel age-wise that we are no longer at risk for, you know, rape or abduction or, you know, whatever. But there's just not an age limit to that nowadays. So we still need to be aware of all of those things. And I think there are things too, like where you park, staying in well-lit areas, not being preoccupied with your phone or your purse or, you know, your kids, you can't really help, but, you know, making sure that you're alert and that you're aware and that you have some form of protection on you, even if it's an umbrella or, you know, something that is a deterrent. Because anyone that's looking to attack another person, and specifically a man and a woman, they're looking for the weakest person or target.
Sure. So what do you think is in just trying to get a grasp of the program, is one of your main goals, would it be for them not to carry themselves through the martial arts training, through the self-defense training, and the confidence hopefully they get from it? Will that be a self-defense tool that they're no longer carrying themselves, behaving like an easy target?
That's the goal. But there's also this, there's also kind of a fine line of, I, for a long time, walked around truly believing that I would be able to completely defend myself against any other man who was not trained.
Right.
I really believed that.
Right.
Until I was in a situation where it was almost an instant realization that that was completely false, and my only hope at this point is simply to escape. And I think that is a reality. I think that the odds of a woman being caught in a situation where she's in it at the advantage, where she's facing forward, where she has an opportunity to throw a kick to the groin or whatever, is slim, very slim. I think it's mostly from behind. I think it's mostly caught off guard. I think that, you know, for me, I was in my car. So I think that there's a lot of situations that we got to be really super careful of. And also, once we do have training, understand that even against an untrained male, the odds of me physically defeating a man that's bigger than me is pretty slim.
Well, and that goes
in terms of that type of a situation.
Right. Well, and you're also speaking, a lot of people get kind of mixed up on the difference between having a duel with someone and defending yourself and actually getting out of the situation. Right.
And I think that when it's a real life or death situation, there's a different, it's very quick. Everything about it is extremely fast, and there's no time for thinking, really. There's no time for, that's why you need that continual training so that your body can do something to help you out that your brain can't catch up with, because it is just so fast.
Unconscious competence.
Yes.
Where you don't have to think about the skill.
Yes.
But going back to want to dive a little deeper into the difference between having a just fist fight with somebody and defending yourself. Now, a lot of times in the martial arts, we'll start mixing those up. They believe that defending yourself is winning a fist fight.
It's not.
No. So as you were saying a little bit that usually you're at a physical disadvantage. So would you believe that the emphasis should be on simply defending yourself enough to get out of the situation and just completely leave the thought of winning a fist fight out of the equation?
The goal for me always will be simply to escape.
Right.
Whatever that means.
Mhm.
So if I have an opportunity to land something that is going to be effective and not just super piss the guy off and then him really
Right.
coming at me, you know what I mean? It would have to be a very special opportunity for me to take something like that. You know, I'm not going to try to ever physically beat up a man. That's
Right.
not.
You're going to do something to try
It's
to
not smart.
use your element of surprise. You be
Yes.
because
So
you
I got
threw
one
yourself in
chance.
you're a small woman, so
You have one element of surprise.
See, that would go back to your point of 6 weeks isn't going to work.
Never.
To be able to get that precision, timing, and be able to do it on call, that's going to be, you're basically now self-defense for yourself, is you need to be in a constant martial arts program that's going to hone those skills on a continual basis.
Well, and yes, so at least what we do, to me, is self-defense. It is 100% self-defense in every way. Everything about it is self-defense.
Mhm.
Now, are there some things about self-defense courses for women that may be useful? Oh, sure. Again, if they're practiced consistently along with everything else.
Right.
And there's a couple of things I would incorporate into, which we kind of do anyways, but maybe incorporate that a little more frequently.
Be a little bit more women specific.
A little more women specific because, you know, we move differently, we're built differently. You can't utilize our body in the exact same way that you utilize your body.
Mhm.
Just like I know a high level kick for me is a very low to mid level kick for most men,
Right.
you know? So I'm not going to try to kick anybody in the head.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Well, we've always taught that in a self-defense situation, you definitely shouldn't be kicking, above mid-level anyways.
Right.
The risk versus reward is too low.
But I think something that had been mentioned to me, honestly, by several women over the years is going back to the whole men instructing those classes is it's almost like a male gynecologist. Women are always a little bit creeped out by that because it's like, why does a man want to do that all day? You know what I mean?
Right.
So women that's their first thing. Why is this man teaching an all women's class?
Right.
One of two reasons: money, or it strokes their ego, makes them feel like they're in control, like they are, you know, it gives them that sense of, I'm not saying all men.
But yeah, but
That's not
when
what
you're
I'm
saying
saying.
that, you're saying that's, but even, let's say whether it's true or it's not true, if you guys think that way, then it's true to you. Now, them believing that, like, why is this guy wanting to be, doing this women's class? Is that a more part of the dominance hierarchy that men
Right.
will?
Yes. So no matter
institute
what
over
the
women?
answer is, there's still the question.
Right.
So whatever the answer is, it could be a completely genuine, like I believe, with Master White and any of the programs we've done here before, I believe that he has a mom, he has sisters, he has daughters. I mean, he has enough women in his life that he genuinely wants women to be able to defend themselves.
Mhm.
There are going to be those men out there. We aren't going to know that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You have to be, as a woman, you have to be a little bit more leery
You're always leery.
of the situation and people's intentions, just because of, like something I don't. So through our conversations, it had been kind of a hit to the ego that how little I knew of what a woman needs out of the martial arts. And then the more I thought about it, is because all the things you described I've never experienced those. I'm a above average size male who's trained martial arts for over 35 years. I'm a big, strong guy without martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intimidating looking, usually my beard and all that. So it's like, I don't know the things, like what it's like to be worried about sitting in your car, or one of the statistics we've seen on our research was women getting abducted and raped in the grocery store or parking lots. I've never even gave that a second. I could go to any store in any place, and I don't think any of those things. So it did me, even though I've never been a proponent of short-term martial arts practice, because I think in some ways it can do more harm than good,
For sure.
because it gives you a false sense of what
Security.
you think you can
A
do.
false sense of security. Yes.
And anybody that's practiced martial arts for any amount of time knows that skill is very fluid. you're either getting better or you're getting worse. And the more you're not doing it, the worse you're getting. And so sometimes you're going to be able to try to use those techniques, and it'd have been better to just use your natural instinct.
Right. Well, because what we do really kind of goes against our natural instinct.
Right. Well, it's marrying it to, it's marrying unnatural and natural together.
Right.
But yeah, it's, if you're not continually trying to make that a part of just who you are, your nature,
right,
it goes away. You'll go back to natural. Not 100%, but enough to where it can leave it as way less effective. So myself as a male is, and just to be honest with you, sometimes the martial arts and being a male instructor, you become pretty arrogant. You think you know everything.
Oh, I'm aware.
So it was, I believe then that women should be teaching that, but women, just the reality of it is, there had to have been a time when there was men teaching the willing women, because the men have the information first.
Sure.
And I'm not trying to say that to offend anybody there is, but most of your martial arts, most of your military, most of your law enforcement, to begin with, that were predominantly male, they had the information, they needed to pass it along.
You don't think they probably passed it though to wives and daughters and?
Well, that's what I'm saying is now it has been. Like for us, we have you, we have Isabel, we have Stacia, we have multiple women that are very capable of doing it and actually are very physical as well. That are, most of our lady instructors would be, for lack of a better word, more on the higher end of that crossing over spectrum of strength, skill, speed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, it's
For
not
sure.
going to be.
And that's kind of what I'm saying is that and all the women you just mentioned are going to be much more physically aggressive with them, and they are going to be a lot more comfortable with that interaction than they would be having that same interaction with any other man here that they didn't know real well. So the whole concept of I'm a man and I'm XYZ black belt, I've been doing it for however many years and this makes me more qualified is wrong, because you're not going, they need to feel that and they need to know what it's like to be hit by a man, or they need to know what it feels like to throw a man, or all of those things are to me irrelevant, because I've never seen anybody actually be very physical with another woman like that.
Right.
Not nearly as physical what I am with another woman. We've had women leave because, they said that I hit them too hard, even though I didn't feel that I did. But that's my point though, is they're gonna be we are gonna be much more engaging physically with each other, because no matter what, it's awkward for a man to be that on you.
Yes,
and I'm sure it's uncomfortable for
the
I know
man
it's
as well.
uncomfortable for you and like Braden, maybe not all men, but for the woman, even if they do know him, it's just awkward and kind of uncomfortable, and I don't know, it's just, I just don't think I don't think they're getting anything from that. I think that it's just, men need to kind of step out of that ego a little bit if they truly want the women in their life, or the women that they're wanting to teach, to really learn something. Then find a woman that's super competent and qualified to instruct these women, and give them that for at least a few months, and then graduate them to the regular adult class when the students are comfortable with that. But that we've seen, and I've pointed out to you guys before, we've had men come in the dojo that every single woman present, there was a physical response to that man walking in the door in one form or another, and you guys had never caught on to that or noticed that. And why? Because you've never had to do that. You've never felt that. You've never had to go, oh, something feels off.
Or somebody's looking at me too hard.
Someone's looking at me weird, or somebody's making me uncomfortable. Like, you guys don't get uncomfortable with other men like that. So,
as well, I mean, men do get intimidated by other men.
but once I pointed that out to you, and the next time that person walked in the door, literally every single woman in some form, there was some movement of their body. They either crossed their arms over their chest, they took a step back, they closed their gi. There was some movement that shows that they are uncomfortable with that person.
Right. Now, let's go to that. with fostering the environment of a women's only class, one thing that I thought would be very important that you had brought to my attention, again, I've never been a part of it, and I am in no way an expert in it, and don't try to pretend, but there are some women who have trauma that will have a trauma response uncontrollably to a man trying to be able to instruct them. Now, do you believe that this women's only environment will now allow the women to be able to foster the techniques and be able to do it in a way that they can get that muscle memory, they can get that unconscious competence without having to shell up and have to go through those different things,
I think it depends on where they are at too, personally, with dealing with whatever has happened to them. I know that we had a young woman that wanted to come to class. She came, she signed up. She couldn't even bring herself to physically get on the mat. Just could not. She just completely shut down. It actually was extremely sad because we can't help somebody that's not there. She wasn't there yet. She wasn't ready to, in her mind, she wanted to take action for herself and learn self-defense so that, she would be able to protect herself at least a little bit better in the future. But I don't think it had been enough time for her. I don't think she had gone through, because I think that they go through this process almost like the grieving process almost. Because I think that you lose a part of yourself too, when something happens like that. And so I think that there is this grief process that women have to process through those things prior, I think, to starting, any class like that. And so, but all of them had a story. Every single one of those women had something.
Let's go to that. Let's expound on that a little bit. Do you believe this in a martial arts school, and I do believe this is not just a self-defense, you're wanting to do like a women's martial arts.
We're doing a women's karate class.
With the emphasis on self-defense and awareness for women.
Yeah, we will incorporate some of that self-defense
but
stuff,
it's like
but it is a karate class.
Specifically for women, and women what they need out of it. Do you believe that, well, everybody that's been a part of a good dojo knows that the camaraderie grows and we help each other in all aspects of life. Do you believe that the sisterhood that could be developed in this could help them get through some of these traumas and get through and work through that and have somebody to talk to that understands them?
Oh, for sure. It's no different than any other student and how we function with our other students. It's no different at all.
Well, I'd say, I know that we do that, but even with our own students, it is kind of a broad demographic where this is kind of a more concentrated demographic.
It is. So, again, a lot just depends on where everybody's at, but if everybody has kind of processed through most of that stuff, then we always have very open conversations about specific events that's happened to them or that they've gone through, so that we can practice on defending against those types of things in those types of situations.
So actual real life experiences rather than what somebody tells you
might happen based off statistics or whatever they think that they know about it.
Okay, so that's excellent, and I'm really glad to hear that environment's going to be present for that class. I think it's very important. What if somebody doesn't have a woman who just feels more comfortable around women that doesn't have a lot of these, we're kind of talking about the worst case scenario a little bit.
Then that woman is going to be a great support for the other women.
So do you think that a woman that doesn't, let me rephrase it a little bit. It seemed to me that from my discussions with you about that class, that every woman we had in it had at least an uncomfortable situation. So do you believe that everybody can, everybody can relate, everybody
100%.
Yeah, so it's just uniquely
because
being a woman.
Because women are the
hit on at the gas station.
You're the second most targeted type of human that's out there.
Right, but
so yes, of course, every woman has experienced something that she was either really uncomfortable with, or even situations with family, situations at work. I mean, it's just a common
place.
It's just a common thing that women just have to go through all the time. Now, I'm not saying men don't; they do, I'm sure. It's just not. I just don't think it's as precedent as it is for women. I think what I'm seeing right now is really violence against women is a global epidemic right now. I mean, it's just
and I believe
even
it
in
always
the
has.
colleges right now.
Yep.
The rape culture in colleges is just astounding, absolutely astounding.
Yeah, I mean that goes back to us men need to be present in our young men's lives and make sure that they are raised them right and what's how you treat women properly.
And there isn't anything that women can do about that. You know what I mean? Like, yes, men can step up and they can, raise their sons in a way that.
I'd say a woman can still teach her son to
But
this
a
wrong,
woman,
but
no, she does. But a woman still has to. She's still gonna have to worry about it no matter what.
Yeah. Of what is the class going to be like? What days? What times? What is the environment going to be like during class?
It starts Monday, March 27th. Class from 7 to 8. Every Monday and Wednesday. The environment's, it's all women. We'll have you and probably Braden or Mr. White even. Men here in the back available, like if we need you for something, or, I've always pulled you guys in periodically. And we have the doors locked. We pull the shades down so people can't see as we're walking in. We're making it as comfortable as we can.
Okay. Now, is this program, we've hit a lot on the kind of the worst case scenarios, but is this class going to encompass everything to do with the martial arts, like all the intangibles that go along with being a lifelong martial artist?
This is going to be a women's only karate class. Where they will still have a manual. They will still know the Dojo Creed. They will everything. They'll know their Japanese terminology. I mean, everything about what we do is what we'll be doing. It's just going to be geared towards what women need from it, and then at some point down the road, what we can offer back to it, what we can bring to the table. I mean, that's because we can be utilized much more than we typically are.
Right.
Actually, you and Mr. White are way more, have been way more accepting of that, I think.
Yeah, we realize that women do a lot better with the children, and come to find out that they do a lot better with the women too, the adults. Is there anything in closing you'd like to say about your program, women in the martial arts, or just martial arts in general?
Well, I just think that women in the martial arts have always been underutilized in many ways. I think that's getting better. I just don't think that a man in the martial arts really ever takes women in the martial arts really all that seriously. In terms of there's always going to be a you cannot get better than me sort of vibe. Might not say it, but it's just there. And I think that women just have to acknowledge that they are women. We have physical limitations. And that's okay though. Like, I think that we just need to really embrace that and give back to it what we can, because like I said, there's definitely a place for us.
Well, there's a huge place for women.
A huge place, no, for sure, a huge place. I'm not undervaluing our place. I'm saying we need to accept our place and be proud of our place, because I think it's a great place. I think it's a great, I think it's a really great role for women. I think that it's not, I don't think we need to be so competitive with our male counterparts. I think that, partly that's men's fault, and partly that's just, it's hard for anybody to accept that they are inferior in any way to another person.
Well, I would disagree that women are inferior to men.
Physically.
Yeah,
I'm
but
only
I'm
speaking
saying
physically.
That,
I think we're by far superior mentally most of the time than intellectually. And definitely, well, we won't get into that, but I'm just saying from a very physical perspective, and generally
so
speaking.
So your karate's just different than a guy's karate?
It's just different.
It's just different.
Because we are different.
And a woman would be better suited to teach that because they've lived that, rather than a guy like myself who actually, they've never been a woman.
Well, right. You've never been a woman, so you really don't even know what a woman's strength feels like. you only know what you think a woman's strength feels like based off what your strength is. So, you know how strong you are, and you can only gauge my strength by what I give to you out of it physically. And that to you is my physical strength because you've never been a woman, so you literally have no idea. Just like I don't know what your true physical strength is. I've never felt it.
Right.
You've never shown that to me, just as I've never really shown that to you either.
Sure.
And so, you can only teach someone anything based on your own perception, your own reality, and what you believe that you know about something.
Sure.
And I think that it's pretty, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's a little typical for a man to believe he's better suited to teach a woman something like self-defense because
They think they're better at violence.
they're the superior, right? Right, exactly. But
it's from a different standpoint.
it's a completely different standpoint because women can be very violent as well, typically for a different reason. You mess with a woman's kids, and I think women competitors are super tough too. Like I think they're just as tough as the men in terms of
usually they're
what they're
really
giving, what they're giving. But if you're not going to put one of those women against somebody like you or another man, I mean that would be stupid.
Well, even in men, there's weight divisions and stuff for a reason.
Right. I just think that there is a huge place for us if the men involved allow that and embrace that. Like we need to embrace that as well. I think that it's.
Well, then you got to step up and be and do the things that you're good at, and we need to do the things we're good at,
right?
For the betterment of martial arts.
For the betterment of everyone. It's not about you and your school. It's about everybody involved in this whole community that comes here. I mean, that's, it's for the betterment of everybody. It's not just
in turn,
for
we make a better community.
Well, no, for sure.
Make better citizens.
Absolutely, yeah. But I just think that there is so much. Once you move beyond a certain level, a certain rank, especially a black belt, I do believe that there sort of becomes this arrogance.
Yeah,
that is. Well, I think that it starts with confidence because you do gain confidence, and you should. That should be a goal. You should gain confidence. But I think that there is a fine line between confidence and arrogance, and I think that it's really easy to slip from confidence into arrogance. And even though you don't mean to, or you're not meaning it in a negative way, it's very off-putting, not just to women, but really all students, I think. So.
Okay. Again, your class starts March 27th at
7 p.m.
At 7 p.m.
Yep.
How can they sign up for it?
So you can register online at whiteandrymerBushidoDojo.com. I hope to have that on there by the end of this weekend. The class will be added to the class section of the website, and then where it says register, you can just register there like you would for any of our other classes. Okay, so they also, of course, can call the dojo at 765-283-7166. They can email us at bushidodojo1@gmail.com and or message us on Facebook. Correct.
And through the website as well.
That's right.
So, all right. Well, it's been nice talking to you. I hope to have you as a guest again. And I look forward to your class.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.